Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Judges, the 5th chapter. And this is mainly a song by Deborah, about her and Barak. And really about the events that transpired. And so she's singing here, glorifying the Lord, and also recounting the events that happened in which the Lord used to deliver Israel. As we saw in the 4th chapter, ending with the Jael, the wife of Heber, the Kenite, ultimately dishing the final blow to Sisera, the captain of Jabin's army. So this is Judges chapter 5, verse 1. Then sang Deborah and Barak, the son of Abinoam, on that day, saying, and as you listen to this or read through this song here, you can sort of see, it seems like she had that same kind of spirit of like song, similar to how Miriam had upon her. Praise ye the Lord Yahweh for the avenging of Israel, when the people willingly offered themselves. All right, so when they willingly contributed, right, to go down and partake in this battle that would lead to the victory of Israel. Hear, O ye kings, give ear, O ye princes. I, even I, will sing unto the Lord Yahweh. I will sing praise to the Lord God of Israel. Lord, when thou wentest out of Seir, when thou marchest out of the field of Edom, the earth trembled, and the heavens dropped. The clouds also dropped water. The mountains melted from before the Lord, even that Sinai from before the Lord God of Israel. And here she makes reference back to the time in the wilderness, right, when the Lord, basically the event that transpired on Mount Sinai. And I wonder if they do a cross-reference here. Yeah, here we go. Deuteronomy. There's a lot of precepts that deal with this. Deuteronomy 4:11, it says, and ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire onto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And at that point, they said, yeah, we're good off that. We'll deal with Moses. Verse 6, in the days of Shamgar, the son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were unoccupied, and the travelers walked through byways. And here what she's saying is that due to us being oppressed by the neighboring nations, a lot of people avoided the highways, right? And those that would travel through would go by the byways, which were, so click into that, but basically like they were still paths, but not the common paths. Yeah, crooked, devious, winding, or crooked way. So paths, but not the common path, as to avoid, running into any conflict from that of these nations here. The inhabitants of the villages ceased. They ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose, that I arose a mother in Israel. Right, and this was due to Israel being oppressed. They chose new gods. Then was war in the gates, right? So when Israel decided to go after these, remember we read that in a couple of chapters ago, right? When they started to worship the idols of these other nations, the Lord raised up the neighboring nations as a thorn in our side, and gave us, or as it says, he sold us onto them. So as it says, then was war in the gates, which are the gates are like the entrance of the cities. Was there a shield or spear seen among 40,000 in Israel? Because when you read, even as we read in the previous chapter, the army of Jabin was 900 or so, if not more, chariots of iron. So whatever artillery we had paled in comparison to theirs, which is what this is sort of emphasizing here. My heart is toward the governors of Israel, that offer themselves willingly among the people. And here she commends those that, when it says they offered themselves willingly, it means that they were willing to partake in joining in this fight of the Lord against the Canaanites. Bless ye the Lord. Speak, ye that ride on white asses, ye that sit in judgment and walk by the way. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing waters, or drawing water. So these that ride on white asses, that sit in judgment and walk by the way, are the, like you could say the higher up, right? Because those are the ones who would have access to this, right? And would, as it says, walk by the way. Now remember, as we read some verses above, the common people avoided the way, right? As to avoid being spotted and being, stopped or raided or any of those things. It says here, they that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. Now, in the context of which Deborah was singing here, at the time she was referring to, because remember that being oppressed, when we read in the 4th chapter, by the Canaanites, they did what usually what nations that take over others do. They set up garrisons, they set up stations, and here it would seem that they would target, because they had guarded the wells, right, where you would actually draw water from, and the archers would pretty much shoot at anybody that would go around there. Okay, but here what she's saying is, after the Lord delivered us, right, those that were, after the Lord had us defeat the armies, the Canaanite armies, people could now go to those places to draw water freely without being afraid of being shot at by the archers, right? So as she says, they that are delivered from the noise of the archers in the places of drawing waters, there they shall rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord. So there they're going to recount the righteous things that the Lord has done for Israel, right, as a form of joy in remembering the deliverances of the Lord. And when you go into the word rehearse is thana, which says to recount, to rehearse, to tell again, right? To commemorate, i.e. to celebrate. So as it says here, even the righteous acts towards the inhabitants of his villages in Israel, then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates, i.e. then they will march freely down to the openings of the city, which is the gates. Now, that's in the context of this, right? But the spiritual or prophetic layer to this is how the Lord pretty much is going to do this again, right? Except it's going to look, a little different than it did at this time. Okay, because in this time, the Lord will deliver, right? As it says, those that are delivered from the noise of the archers, and that's going to be the elect, right? In this time, and he is going to deliver them, except the arrows that are going to be shot of those archers in this time are not going to be physical, actual arrows. It's going to be those missiles. Okay. And just like back then, they rehearsed the righteous acts of the Lord. In this time, in the place of drawing water, which we're not actually drawing water from wells, but that's representing where we dwell, today, primarily being in Babylon. All right. But in calling to mind the righteous acts of the Lord, right, and the Lord putting that back into our remembrance, right, would lead us to repent and to seek the ways of the Lord, and hence the Lord would deliver us, Lord, when we'll be of that elect, from these arrows when they're shot off. Okay, so remember that Deborah is singing a song here, but from this you can see she had that skill similar to Miriam of, singing prophetic songs as well. So though she was rejoicing and glorifying the Lord, you can see the spiritual connections and layers to some of her lyrics here. Okay, as we just drew one here with Judges 5 and 11. And usually, the prophetic, layer of it is what we, typically go with whenever we jump to Judges 5 and 11, but also given the context of what she was saying in terms of that time. Verse 12, awake, awake, Deborah, awake, awake, utter a song. Arise, Barak, and lead thy captivity captive, i.e. those that had that had Israel in captivity, we would now lead them captive. And this was considering the Lord had given them into the hand of Israel, which, as we read in the 4th chapter, they ended up getting the victory. Thou son of Abinoam. Then he made him that remaineth have dominion over the nobles among the people. And this him that remaineth are Israel, those that came to fight, gained the dominion or the upper hand over the nobles among the people, which are the mighty ones, right? The Canaanites and their captains and their art generals and so on. The Lord made me have dominion over the mighty. Out of Ephraim was there a root of them against Amalek, meaning you had those out of Ephraim come out to join the battle in fighting against Amalek, which were you can imagine might have joined forces with the or had been in the army of Jabin as well. And that wouldn't be far-fetched, because even when I think it was Eglon, I believe it might have been Eglon, the king of Moab, when he came against Israel, it says that he gathered of the Ammonites and the Amalekites to come against us. It was either him or it was the king of Mesopotamia, one of those two. In any case, as it says here, you had those of Ephraim that came out to fight. After thee, Benjamin, among thy people. Now, what this means is Benjamin was right there with their troops as well to join in the battle. Out of Machir came down governors, right? And these would be more like generals, right? Or those that were ready for war. And out of Zebulon, they that handled the pen of the writer. Now, when you go into these words here, at face value, it may seem like it's referring to just like recorders to record the events. But when you look into the words like pen and writer, right, the pen goes into here, as it says, a scepter, a staff, a scepter as in mark of authority. And the writer goes into, recounting, but also, where is it? Right. Muster officer, right? Secretary. So that's why when you look at this in some of the other translations, they have it as like a recruiter staff, a commander staff. And basically these were those that would order the armies, right? And divide them up and have the strategies of war, basically. And remember that this is still a song, right? And that Deborah is singing, once again recounting the events, but also glorifying the Lord, but also rebuking some of the tribes for not joining in, which we're about to see. Verse 15, and the princes of Issachar were with Deborah, even Issachar and also Barak. Which Barak meaning lightning, right? Because let's go into that. You have a variation which is to bless, and I think you also have the one here which is lightning. See here, same as, yeah, and I want to see if they have the, okay, let's see, bless. Yeah. So you have your word bless, and I think the difference there is in the suffix, the ending, right? So you have Barak with the what is this, a ka, and then you have Barak with a qua, right, which is a q. So looks similar in the English, but different in the Hebrew. Anyway, continuing on. He was sent on foot into the valley, right? Meaning Barak with those that were with him as they went to engage in battle with Sisera and his armies. For the divisions of Reuben, there were great thoughts of heart. And when you go into this, what she's saying here is that they were hesitant. This was those of Reuben, that is. Why abodest thou amongst the sheepfold, to hear the bleatings of the flocks? For the divisions of Reuben, there were great searchings of heart. So here she begins with Reuben and some of the other tribes that didn't come to help, right? And that's why she's saying, why did you just stay and dwell with your flocks? Did you just like the sounds of your flocks? And then she mentions that amongst those of Reuben, there were great searchings of heart, meaning they weren't resolved to come and join in to help their brethren against the Lord, right? In the NLT, it says there was great indecision. Gilead abode beyond Jordan. And why? Meaning they stayed in their land, they stayed in their territory. And why did Dan remain in ships, right? And what this alludes to is that, maybe Dan, I don't know, maybe a lot of them, either they dwelt around the coastal area, right? Or they had a dealings in maritime situations with ships and whatnot. But long story short, what she's saying is they stayed in their place, right? They didn't, from Reuben to those in Gilead to those in Dan and Asher, right? Asher continued on the shore and abode in his breaches. Neither of them came down to help. Zebulun and Naphtali were a people that jeoparded their lives unto the death in the high places of the field, meaning mainly Zebulun and Naphtali, though you had some of the tribes above that we mentioned, right? Ephraim and Benjamin, but they were the ones that came to the battle, that risked their lives, right, on the battlefield. The kings came and fought. Then fought the kings of Canaan in Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo. And these are, once again, Jabin and those that were with him. They took no gain of money, meaning they came to the battle, but they lost. So they didn't take any spoil. They fought from heaven. The stars in their courses fought against Sisera. And what this is saying is like, we had even the even the stars of heaven were on our side fighting, for us. It wasn't literal, but what it means is that things were in the favor of Israel. The river of Kishon swept them away, that ancient river, the river of Kishon. O my soul, thou hast trodden down strength. Once again, a poetic saying, but emphasizing how her soul was strong, right? So much so that it trampled down the mighty, or those that were, strong, which would be the armies of Canaan. Then were the horse hooves broken by the means of prancings. Prancing meaning like to gallop. And the horse hooves being broken, it doesn't mean that the actual horse's hooves broke, but the word broken goes into like how the force in which they were striking down. So like when you hear like horses running or galloping, that force in which they strike down the ground as they run is what she's referring to here. So you can almost say like the horse hooves slamming on the ground by means of the prancings of their mighty ones. Curse ye Meroz, said the angel of the Lord. Curse ye bitterly the inhabitants thereof, because they came not to the help of the Lord Yahweh, to the help of the Lord Yahweh against the mighty. Now it doesn't specify if those that were dwelling in here were Israelites, right? Because it just says here, refuge, a place in northern Palestine. But, they might have been, considering the context of what's going on here. I doubt that they would expect heathens to come and join and help the battle of the Lord here, right? So chances are that these were some Israelites that didn't come down to help in the battle. Blessed above women shall Jael, the wife of Heber, the Kenite, be. Blessed shall she be above women in the tent. Above women that dwell in tents, she shall be blessed. He asked water, and she gave him milk. She brought forth butter in a lordly dish. And butter here meaning like curd, right? So if we look up here, curd, dish. Uh, yeah, it's if you look up curd, you'll find out what it is. But it looks almost like yogurt, but depending on how it's made, I mean, shit, they got whole tons of it. I think this is like one example here. Um, long story short, it seems to have been a delicacy at the time. So she brought him a whole lot of that. No wonder he was so sleepy. She put her hand to the nail and her right hand to the workman's hammer, and with the hammer she smote Sisera. She smote off his head, when she had pierced and stricken through his temples. At her feet he bowed, he fell, he lay down. At her feet he bowed, he fell. Where he bowed, there he fell down dead. The mother of Sisera looked out at a window and cried through the lattice, "Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why tarry the wheels of his chariots?" So now she's singing concerning how stressed the mother of Sisera would have been, seeing that her son is not coming back now. Her wise ladies answered her, "Yea," she returned answer to herself. So she'll ask these questions out of concern. Her wise ladies will give her a response, and she would reinforce that to sort of comfort herself. Have they not sped? Have they not divided the prey? To every man a damsel or two. And this is like saying, like, I'm sure by now, they're just dividing the spoils of the victory of war. As it says, to every man a damsel or two, right? Taking the after killing the men, taking the women, dishing them out. To Sisera a prey of diverse colors, a prey of diverse colors of diverse colors of needlework on both sides. Meat for the necks of them that take the spoil. And this is like she's basically Deborah is singing about the mom of Sisera, speaking these comforting things onto herself along with her wise ladies to comfort her as to why it is her son is not home, rather than accepting the fact that he isn't coming back. And these diverse colors, so she's telling herself, oh, they must just be dividing the spoils, and he's probably getting a very nice colorful garment that's fit for a captain of his rank, and so on. Verse 31, so let all thine enemies perish, O Lord Yahweh, but let them that love him be as the sun when he goeth forth in his might, i.e. to shine bright, okay, which is a sign of to flourish. And the land had rest 40 years. And that brings us to the end of the book of Judges, the 5th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.